video is horrible. You can't see nothing. You can't see nothing up in here. Let me see if I can get a little extra light. That's gonna help. Holy crap. That's pretty bad. All right, I guess it's gonna be a looking at the road video because it's too goddamn dark. And that'll be an advantage of this will be that better audio because I can keep the microphone closer to my mouth. I can turn off all these lights in here. Looking crazy. Okay. So you have the online people who say a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of things, and then you have the people in the real world, and not quite the same thing. I mean, obviously the people online, well, not obviously. Them are not in the real world, either because they're literally spending most of their lives on the internet in terms of no social life, not really going anywhere. They may even work remotely, so you're not even going to work. You're working at home, so you're online all day, every day, right? So your perspective is very online because online is so I've been getting politically engaged in my local community. I'm starting a war with my local city government, fighting to get them to actually do their jobs and fighting against the crumb giving, right? Just doing the bare minimum and all the platitudes and all that good stuff. My focus is on housing because that's where they hit me, and I want to address the issue from its core, which is division. Surprise, surprise. American politics is hurt by division, right? Divide and fall. So what's the division? Housing issue, sides of housing. There's the renter and there is the landlord, homeowner. And there are to understand better about what's happening, right? How can I? And first of all, I'm not, like I've said, no one's coming to save us, right? We got to save ourselves. I'm not trying to be anybody's savior. I'm not here I'm going to fix everything. I am here to be the catalyst to get the community to fix itself, right? That's my goal. My goal is to guide them in the right direction, fill in the gaps, the knowledge gaps that's holding them back. They push for policies without fully understanding the effects of these policies or the problems they're trying to solve. So I'm going to do the legwork, fully understand what's going on, and help them to more efficiently, go after solutions that actually make sense for everyone, not just for themselves. And many times it's not even beneficial to themselves. It's just some pipe dream that they've been sold on. But to the topic of the video, my observations. So there's a conflict of interest with the American progressive. And that is that you look at the progressive ideology, right? Their position is, I guess, a great way to get to the point, pretty succinctly, is the bleeding heart liberal concept. Now, I say that without the understanding what the bleeding heart liberal concept is. I just hear people say that all the time, and I have my own opinion on what they're trying to say. But this is getting me to dangerous territory of what I don't like other people doing, where they talk about something they don't really know anything about, right? Based on their feelings, right? They're using a word, they don't know what it means. They heard somebody use it, the person's using it inappropriately, they don't care to investigate, and then they do the same thing. So I will admit my ignorance of the bleeding heart liberal phrase, but I guess I'll qualify what I think it means before I use it. So I look at these progressives, and a big part of their thought process, or what drives them, seems to be that they are humanists. They are compassionate, right? Now, their compassion, unfortunately, can be very focused in a way such that they can be very savage to people outside of their focus, right? So ironically, to the right group of people, they can be super compassionate, even if the things that they're doing don't necessarily help the way they think they do to those people, but still, they generally want to help this particular group. But then another group could just die. Who cares? Your whole family dies, your house burns down, you lose all your money, you're on the street. They're okay with that. You're not being compensated for your labor, they're okay with that, right? Because you're inconvenient to their narratives, or you're just outside of where they're focused. But if you're within their focus, how can I help you? Oh, this and that. Oh, that's so bad, man. Oh, that's how it is, capitalism, whatever, right? So therein lies a big flaw, a big weakness of the American progressive, in my opinion. And I want to clarify by saying, progressives are not a monolith, just like conservatives are not a monolith. So you have progressives that have different approaches. So when I speak, I'm speaking in general terms, in terms of generally speaking. This seems to be the pattern of behavior, with exceptions. So it would be an exception for progressive not to be in the way that I'm speaking now. That would be an exception. They exist, right? I'm saying that everyone's like this, but that's an exception. This is the norm. The norm is, to me, the bleeding heart liberal idea. So why is that a weakness? Why is it a weakness to have compassion, empathy, and all these things? Well, if I can attempt an on-the-fly analogy. So, what kind of person do you want to be like a babysitter? Right? You want someone that is very empathetic, very compassionate, very understanding, very nurturing. Oh, baby, what's the matter? Oh, what happened? Oh, you're hungry? Oh, let me get you some food. Oh, don't touch that. That's what you want to be, babysitting. You don't want someone who's going to abuse your child or neglect your child or not listen to your child and understand their concerns, right? You want somebody very attentive and very, for lack of a better way of saying it, very motherly, right? I think there's a big sort of motherly sort of attitude that I see with American progressives, and that is great for, again, just being an analogy, for babysitting, right? Now, what happens when a bunch of terrorists come through the bushes with their guns and start firing? What value is all of this sort of motherly stuff, right? Do you want the babysitter, the good babysitter? Is that the kind of personality that you want to be protecting your home when the terrorists are coming? I don't think so. The nurturing and the empathy and all this kind of stuff, oh, I don't want to hit them. Oh, and maybe he's just misunderstood and he doesn't understand what he's doing, and who knows, maybe they put a gun to his head and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't work, man. That doesn't work. When the terrorists come through the bushes, you need the savages, right? You need someone who is prepared to defend the property, to defend you no matter what, right? They will not hesitate. They will, step forward and aggressively approach the enemy, right, and put them down, right? And that doesn't mean necessarily killing them, but stopping them from whatever they're doing, right? Absolutely no hesitation, get it done. Either you do it or they're going to take you out. You take them out or they're going to take you out, right? Militancy. This is what I see as a major flaw with the American progressives. They lack militancy. And that is where sort of a unique thing in terms of my approach. I share their empathy and understanding and, being sort of a humanist and concerned about other people. Unlike the single American progressive, I don't let that get in the way. Being aggressive, right? I can be militant, I can be savage, and I think that my savagery is more appropriate. Like an American progressive will be savage to people who are outside of their focus. So for example, someone who's poor, who's working very hard, not being paid very well, right? They fully empathize with that person. And this is wrong. They work very hard and they're not being compensated for their labor, right? However, I could work 3 times as hard as that person and not get any compensation for my labor. And the attitude from the American progressive is that of a savage. Who cares? Right? My life doesn't mean anything to many of these progressives. I am like dirt. I am Satan. I'm an evil capitalist landlord who has no value. I don't provide anything of value. I'm just taking, right? That's not my approach. I am appropriately savage. What is appropriately savage? My savagery is focused on the 1%, the dysfunctional government, the corporations who take advantage of us, right? That's where I focus my savagery. I would never focus my savagery on anyone who has to work for a living, right? Unlike the American progressive, who treats the upper middle class like they're the 1%. I don't do that, right? I am 99% against the 1%. So whether you are homeless, whether you are poor, whether you are low middle class, middle class, upper middle class, if you have to work for a living, right? If you can't afford to, go on a 5-year vacation traveling around the world, as an independent adult, because obviously maybe somebody young who is still, you're kind of fresh out of college or in college or something. I'm talking somebody older than that, you're completely independent, right? As a completely independent person, if you can't afford to go for 5 years, just travel the world, 1%, that's where my savagery is addressed. And not just randomly. I'm not mad at you because you have wealth, right? And I'm not mad at anyone who fits that category, right? My focus, right, my savagery is towards the people who are actively keeping a boot on the neck of the 99%, right? You're buying the politicians. The politicians are serving this class instead of serving their constituents, right? So the people who are essentially corrupting the country, our government, and doing things that is hurting the 99%, that's where my energy is at, right? So instead of engaging in class warfare like a lot of American progressives, where does the problem materialize? Well, it's in the real world. I see these progressives who they're not prepared, as I am, to go to war with their local government, right? They're not prepared to go to war with the people they vote for, right? They want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're doing the best they can, and this and that. No, no, no. I believe in a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? A Jimmy Dore level, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Let's just call it aggression, right? A Jimmy Dore level aggression in terms of, and we got to separate Jimmy Dore's talk from the reality. So I'm talking about his talk. The reality is not really a match with his talk, but if we were to take him at his word, the level of adversarial, that's what I'm looking for. Jimmy Dore level adversarial sort of stance with government. So Jimmy Dore talks about going hardcore against, all the Democrats, the squad included, AOC, all of them. They're not our friends. They should fear us. And that's not Jimmy Dore talk. That's AOC talk. AOC said this kind of stuff, right? Until she decided to be part of the machine, right? She talked a good game about how she's going to fight the system, and then now she's just part of the system, right? So it's not even just the, Jimmy Dore talk. This is AOC talk, right? Prior to her and Mama Bear becoming friends. I don't mean that literally. So I want that Jimmy Dore adversarial sort of approach with our government. And the progressives, I don't feel like they are there yet, right? And that's a major flaw, because we have big problems, complicated problems. These problems require fighters. These problems require warriors, right? These problems require war, right? So if you have politicians that are just kind of status quo around the edges, whatever, and you're like, oh, well, no. Thunder and fury. It's what these politicians need, right? Make them up so much that they are afraid of you, like the way the GOP is afraid of their base, right? They think to themselves, I've got to really fight for these people, otherwise they're going to make my life a living, right? They are going to expose me for my inaction. They're going to shine a spotlight on my corruption. I need to step up or step off. Some people, realizing they're not up to the task, will step off and resign, right? Or not run for re-election, right? Others will change their ways and actually step up and fight for the people, right? But this is not going to happen, in a large way with the bleeding heart liberals, right? Because I'll be talking to them about, there was an example of inaction of our local politicians, an actual event that happened right before our eyes, and I saw it as, this is another example of their failure to do their jobs, right? And what did I get from the progressive? Excuses. Oh, this and that. No. Defending. These politicians are not our friends. They work for us. We pay their salaries. We need to take on a position of managerial. We are the boss, right? We need to be stern, aggressive, set boundaries, right? Punish them when they're not doing their jobs. I know some progressive will hate that, the use of the word punish in the context of me saying like we're the boss. This is the idea. So I guess in short, I think that the American progressives are too soft. We have big, big problems that require bold moves, bold solutions, bold people. And unfortunately, an asset of the progressives becomes a liability. Their empathy and, oh, this people suffering and they need homes and, oh, like, that's good. That's good because that gets them to want to help. That's good. That's all good. But the problem is that the reason for the suffering is because of a big bad monster. And you can't come to the big bad monster with, oh, please, this, won't you please? No, no, no. If you want to deal with gangsters, you got to be gangster yourself. And American progressives, gangster they are not. And then unfortunately, the people who are gangster, it's a lot of unfocused rage, many times misinformed rage. They're the ones who they'll get into being violent. They want to burn stuff down, and it's almost like you have people that are just frustrated in general, right? And they end up politically venting in a way. It's just kind of like you just have this anger, let's burn it all down, and it's just kind of like, so they got the energy. The energy is good, but the energy is not focused in a good way. And what's the reason for that? Unfortunately, the way the dynamics, social dynamics, whatever it is, goes, you have few leaders and mostly followers. And then we look at followers as a pejorative, but the reality is you can't have everybody leading, right? You can't have most people leading. That's not going to work. You can't have half the people leading. That's not going to work either, right? The way it works is you have the few leading the many, right? So what is missing? Leadership. The people who have the militancy that's required to get the job done don't have good leaders. Their leaders are focused on self-interest and social media, and they're trying to monetize and make money and get famous or whatever. And these are the ones that are leading, these movements. So you just get a lot of stuff being burnt down and chaos and violence and whatnot. And at the end of the day, what's accomplished? What policies are passed, right? How are our lives made better, right? You don't really get a lot of results. And then the progressives, they're just frankly too soft, right? Too soft, too mealy mouth, oh, we gotta help these people and housing, it should be all right, and this and that, and the American people deserve better. Like, that doesn't work, man, right? You need the right combination of some level of empathy and understanding and concern for others. That's going to inspire you to want to help, right? But then you need a strong level of militancy where you're ready to fight, right? And be aggressive against people who are aggressively keeping you down, right? With their corruption, self-interest. But then you also need to be the right level of informed, right? Not echo chamber informed, where you're just seeing things from a certain perspective based on the media you're consuming. No, you need to fully understand what's going on, full perspective, have a little bit of that empathy, a lot of the aggressive energy, but tactical, right? Clear agenda, clear vision, clear focus in terms of results driven. This is what we want to accomplish, right? And this is how we're going to get it done. For us, and they need to deliver, otherwise shut them down, right? But we don't have that. We have chaotic extremists, and then we have the bleeding heart liberals who call themselves progressives, right? Look up the definition of liberal and tell me that they're not liberals. But anyway, that doesn't work. That combination gets to exactly what we've been getting for a very long time now, which is crumbs, bare minimum, right? Status quo. That is a result of a too soft progressive and a disorganized, just lacking in tactical skill left-wing extremists, who the soft, bleeding heart liberal progressives are so soft that they won't even use the word extremist, right? They'll talk about extremists on the right, but they won't talk about their own extremists. Like that kind of bitch mode, bitch made. Nah, that's not it, man. You don't even have the strength to call things what they are. Yeah, that ain't doing it, man. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. More comments to come as I venture into the real world of American progressivism. What is it really like? What are they really like? Let me get to the heart of the problem in terms of why they are so ineffective, right? And I'll leave you with a bonus reason why they're so ineffective. An apologist, progressive, hearing me say this, will correctly point out accomplishments that progressives have made, right? It's the same rhetoric that the progressives in Congress use to fool us, right? I don't think anyone doesn't accomplish anything, right? Even the GOP has accomplishments. Progressives have accomplishments, right? Whether in Congress or on the streets. No one's saying they're not doing anything. And this is another issue. People look at people they don't agree with as if they're the devil. They're completely useless. They don't have any value. Progressives have a lot of value. And progressives have accomplished quite a bit of things over time. So that's not the argument. Pointing out stuff they've accomplished doesn't make any point, right? The problem is they don't accomplish enough. They're not aggressive enough to have an adequate pace to meet the demands of the American people, right? It's more incrementalism, little here, little there, right? There's a lot more that could be accomplished if they simply were a bit more aggressive and adversarial to our government. But that is not in their nature. Well, good news. It's in my nature. I am no friend of any politician or any political party. Right? I got no problem. What is it? Hell and brimstone? I have no problem doing an all-out war against our politicians for not delivering for the American people. Right? No hesitation, no prisoners. Appropriately savage. All right, guys. Until next time.